What have you ever known besides this moment? Hasn't it always been this? When has it not been this? So no past, never been a past. Where's the past? It's an idea, it's a concept. It's looking at a picture and a thought going, oh yes, this is me when I was 5 months. I was such a looker. No, it's just always been this, appearing, whatever's showing up, good, bad, pleasant, unpleasant, painful, joyous, confused, stuck. And same with future. Future is a concept too. You've never experienced a future. And that's where the me gets its identity from, is from a past that's not examined. You're still believing that story. Oh yes, I was, born on such and such date, and that was my body then, and this is my body now, and well, that wasn't your body then, and it's not your body now. You're not in the body. The body's in you, along with the trees and the sky and the birds. Or as Nkosi would say, everything's appearing in you as you. So that's the no separation. There's not two. There's just whatever's appearing is all the same. So every expression is equally this, regardless if it's an ant or a planet. And one's not better than the other. And that's the problem with the human brain, that animals don't have, insects don't have. They don't sit there and judge, wow, man, I really suck at building a nest. I got to go to nest school and get better. This is embarrassing. The birds don't. Can you imagine? It's this self-importance, this obsessing. How do I look? How am I coming off? Do they like me? So I don't know. This is an open meeting, meaning everyone's welcome to share. Feel free to unmute, ask a question, make a comment, whatever you like. So if there's just this, how can you, where does right and wrong come in?
Well, we're taking a position, the me is taking a position and has some criteria of right and wrong.
Yeah. So that can get old. That's what this really honest, that's what this meeting's all about, is the heaviness of being a me, the burden of always trying to get it right, to not fuck up. Come on, I'm running out of time.
Well, Michael, you asked where does right and wrong come in? It comes in along with the story. It's part of the equipment of the story, and the me is in the story. So, and the right and wrong is part of what the me is doing in the story, which is getting to my goal, my happiness. So right and wrong comes along with that. I use right and wrong. I use all the ideas and concepts because it's all built into the story. That's what makes the story. And what you're talking about, I guess, is what happens when the story, you get fed up with the story, or the story's not interesting anymore, or starts to get frayed around the edges and doesn't seem to be what you thought it was. Maybe it's not even real. Oh, no, it isn't real. Yeah.
No, Dan, that's good. That actually hits the nail on the head, because if I were to put it in words, I'd say the story begins to be more trouble than it's worth.
I like to think of the stories like the house of cards. They're just ready to fall at any time. With just a flick or just some very light breeze will knock it down.
Or maybe the 10,000th time that it feels like you've believed it and suffered 10,000 times, and you're like, how many more? You know, how much more? Like it sort of seems pretty automatic. I believe my story, sooner or later I suffer. All of a sudden it can dawn, what do I need a story for? Huh? And it seems even funny calling it radical, when it seems so natural to not have a story. Seems natural and free.
The story is to have an identity. It gives us an identity. If I don't have a story, then the concern is that I'm in free fall and I'm lost. And the story gives some sense, context. And I've gotten used to living with a context. I'm not so used to live without the story and without the context.
Well, actually, Peter, you can't live without the context. There's no you if there's no context. So the me the person only knows the story. You know, you can have an idea of, well, gee, what would it be if I was without my story? But that's doesn't make any sense, because the me is the story. And that's why, you know, when there's a so-called scene, it's not like it's understood or something is you know, arrived at. It's just that the me is not there because the story isn't there. The story is, you know, well, anyway. The story and the me create each other, and they stay alive together as long as there's energy in there. But when one goes, the other goes along with it, because they're the same.
Right. The me is the story.
Yeah, thank you. And the only place the me can live is in a story. So that's why the me is, you know, interested in all these things that we're talking about. Yeah.
Right. It needs a story to live. That's what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. Where would the me be without a story? What would it be? It would be this, which is what it is.
It would be void of any oxygen to sustain itself. It would deprive, it would starve itself from oxygen to be. If the story evaporates, it's dissolving.
Yeah, because it needs your interest. You keep the story alive. What else?
Which is why the me doesn't like silence, which is what we started with. Silence doesn't support any story. Me is always needs to have the story supported by everything, by my thinking constantly, by the noise coming in, by the things to do. When that goes, it's like, you know, it's like pulling everything. Yeah, you know, taking all the.
Yeah, it's like a balloon.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
constantly loses air, and so we have to keep blowing air into it.
Keep the juice flowing.
Yeah.
Right.
So the recommendation here is to call its bluff. Right? The me is convinced that it's necessary for you to brush your teeth. That you couldn't brush, the body couldn't brush its teeth without me. I have to orchestrate this whole operation. Well, put it to the test. See if the body doesn't find its own way to the bathroom, and you find the teeth are getting brushed. Lo and behold, you were not needed.
Whose teeth?
Let me ask a hypothetical sort of, just something I thought about. I'm not saying it's true, but what if this reality, whatever we would call it, was wanting, it's like, you know how we read books and we go to movies to experience different things. And what if reality, quote unquote, wanted to experience itself immersed in stories, to know what it's like to be a Joyce or to be a Michael, to experience joy and hate and anger and violence and everything. What if it turns out the story is sort of an unfolding of life experiencing itself in infinite ways? Because we talk about the story as if it's kind of bad or it's negative, but what if that's not it? What if the story is just serving, in a sense, life experiencing all these different facets of reality? It's just a thought that I've had.
That would just be another story.
That would be another story too. And the fact that maybe if we could call bluff on the me, or the story, that would be it's all story, even if no matter what, it's all story. But it's just a different way. I'm just experimenting in my own mind of, well, what if it has a different kind of story about the me, other than the one we're telling?
Well, there is no me.
Yeah, that's true. There is no me. And that's important, I think, to sort of remember that there really is no me. It's all just whatever you call it, contracted energy. I don't know, whatever, but it's not really a me. It's that becomes, we actually make the story of the me, I think.
No, you don't do anything.
Well, that's true, because it's not you to make it, to do it.
Yeah, everything's just happening spontaneously. Just this, the sound of my voice, the Zoom meeting, the temperature, the walls, everything, all of it. That's what I love about Nkosi, that to me set him apart from virtually every other teacher out there. And I just say teacher with quotes, but is that he was so inclusive. There was nothing left out of this. So if you think this is stupid, that's this thinking this is stupid. So it's always this expressing as that. No exception. Or as Nkosi used to say, even what seems to be an exception is this, which is one of my all-time favorite ones. All is this, even what seems to be an exception.
Hey, Michael, I have kind of a thing that kind of shares with what you mentioned, how everything's within you, so to
Mhm.
speak.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to explain this, but I kind of had I don't know if you call it experience, but a scene of that like a week ago. So where I was meditating, and then all of a sudden there was just a vastness. And then there was the character Matt. You know, I'm a teacher, so I'm always trying to fix things and help kids out, and I'm trying to make my wife more spiritual and all this. And so it was seeing the character Matt, how he's constantly causing issues. And then there was just this vastness behind that was watching it all. And the vastness just knew, just cut it out. All you have to do is love everyone. Just love everything you see. That's it. And this for a little bit of that, I don't know how long it was, maybe 15, 20 minutes. There's just like infinite wisdom. And just like you mentioned, the body started doing things. And then it was obvious to me that I had no control over the body. The body was just kind of doing its own thing. And I was just like, well, gee, I wonder what's going to happen next. What is the body going to do? You know, it was like, and then I thought to myself, I'm like, who's running this whole operation? It was just kind of funny. Like, it's just, so yeah, I did notice that the whole body was within me. You know, the character was within me as well, and everything else. And yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. I actually, this is perfect. Nkosi, welcome. Welcome, Nkosi.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Hi.
So I was noticing everything's appearing within the view, and we often think of the body as separate, but no separation. The body is part of the view. So these hands are not separate from anything. Your body's not separate from the view. You think because you're seeing my body, I'm in the view, but your body's not in the view, that it's separate. No. Anyway, Nkosi, I was wondering if you could speak on no separation.
Yeah. Yeah, there isn't any separation here. So, so this doesn't mind what's happening. because what seems to be happening right now is just an expression of this. It's just this expressing as that. So this doesn't have any intention to do anything. It doesn't have any intention to convince what seems to be an individual, because what seems to be an individual is already this. So it doesn't matter if there are questions arising, thoughts arising, appearing and disappearing. Everything is this already. So this doesn't mind what seems to be happening. There may be questions, thoughts, disagreements, arguments. It's just this appearing as that. So there isn't any separation here. Separation is just a thought, it's thought-based. Or should I say separation is just this appearing as separation. So there isn't any separation in that sense. So this may appear as anything. This may appear as anything. You know, there's no wrong or rights with anything here, because everything is this. And this is nothing that seems to appear as everything. So everything is already nothing. So right now, nothing is happening already. There may be a thought that says, oh, something is happening. I'm in the meeting. I'm attending a Zoom meeting. It's okay. There's just a thought arising in this as this. So what seems to be an individual, it may seem as if it's getting somewhere. But as a matter of fact, it doesn't actually exist. It's just this appearing as that. So everything is okay, just the way it is. No. This is shameless. Because it doesn't see the other. This is not ashamed of itself. Because there's only itself. There's nothing here. It's just this. And it is also shapeless. Yet what seems to be shape is appearing is in it as it. So there are no individuals here already. And this right here is not trying to address anyone. It's not trying to talk to anyone here, because there isn't anyone here already. There's just talking happening. Confusion may happen. Wandering may happen. Anything may happen. Nothing is suppressed here. Because what seems to be everything is already this. Is already wholeness. So there is no escape. There is no escaping this. So everything is beautiful just the way it is. whether it seems to be imperfect or perfect. It's just beautiful. So there's no separation here. There's no separation. Nothing is separate from anything. A thought that appears that says there's separation is not an evidence that there's separation. It's just this appearing as that thought. So it's just meaningless. Doesn't mean anything.
Can we pause there in Nkosi? Because I really feel that it's just a thought that claims separation, may even feel like separation, is not proof of anything. So there's never been any separation. So there's no waiting. Because there's already no you here to wait for anything. If anybody else has a comment or question, feel free to jump in.
So even something appearing as some sort of proof is to itself just something formless appearing as that. So the formlessness can appear as whatever it wants.
Yeah, literally everything. So the dust, the walls, carpet, the mirror, your skin, your hair, teeth, all of it, these sounds, all is this. You could say even what seems to be an exception, you could say no exception, all is this, and there are no exceptions.
So that's why we say there isn't a world. There isn't any dust. There isn't any carpet. There isn't any room. Dust isn't dust. It's not, or carpet isn't carpet. It's just what God's plan was just calling formlessness. It only becomes dust or carpet when we start telling the story about it. So it's only playing the role of as dust and carpet and room and all these different things inside the story. It only becomes that once it's in the story. So it appears to be that, and we assume it's that and imagine it's that. But it's always just what it is, which is, we could call it formlessness or this, or there's no words, because the words are all in the story too. But who I am, who you are, what everything is not anything in a story. And that's kind of the big secret.
Yeah, and it's like if you look at something and you see dust, that calls back the history of what you think about dust.
Mhm.
Dust is bad, or I don't like dust. And then, the mind will label things and put it in its categories of good and bad and what's better than something else. And yeah, I like that.
Yeah, it's like the memories of these things just keep playing out over and over again, like you just said, Matt.
I don't know if any of you heard Nkosi and Alice's latest YouTube audio, but if you haven't, it's fantastic as always. And Nkosi, I loved when you used you were saying to Alice, it's wholeness at the beginning of the race, it's wholeness at the middle of the race, and it's wholeness at the end of the race.
Yeah, there isn't anything that is separate from anything. So it doesn't really matter what is being said. Any direction may be taken, but it doesn't really matter because there's nowhere to go. It's just wholeness. Everything is whole and complete already. So it doesn't really matter what is being said because the one who's saying it is already wholeness. So wholeness doesn't see the other, sees itself. So nothing matters to this. So nothing's happening already. This doesn't move. This doesn't have any intention to do anything. This is not waiting for anything to happen. This has no expectations.
And waiting is what the me is doing. I'm waiting for my enlightenment, damn it. And you know what? I posted a picture of a skeleton, and underneath the skeleton, had his hand under his chin. It said, still waiting. It's never going to happen. The me is waiting for an event that's never, ever, ever coming. So that can be noticed. You can feel that right now. Feel that thing right. There's something that's waiting. It's like, ah, this moment just isn't enough. I want the better moment, the fireworks. So it can dawn that suddenly that's too big of a price to pay because there's only this. There's only what's appearing, this, the simplicity of this. Never been a past, never been a future.
The one that seems to be waiting is already that it seems to be waiting. Is already that. So I can say as well, there's no one who's waiting. It may seem as if there's somebody who's waiting, but that one is already this. So it doesn't really matter what is being said. Waiting or not waiting is already this wholeness, everything. So everything is okay. Because that one, as you said, Michael, doesn't actually exist. The one who seems to be waiting as a separate person doesn't actually exist. It's just this that seems to be waiting.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like waiting for itself.
Yeah, it's very funny. It's beautiful.
Waiting for Godot. Godot was Samuel Beckett's piece about waiting a long time ago. Maybe some remember it.
Yeah, so I'm waiting for myself to arrive, which is never going to happen because what I'm waiting for is only what's always already here. But and then I'm also apparently doing a lot of stuff all the time to make it arrive faster, make myself get here better and sooner, and which also, you know, it has nothing to do with anything. It has nothing to do with anything, all the things that I'm apparently doing, because they're all about getting to that place where me and myself were finally together again. But that's the story. That's the story of, you know, and it has nothing to do with anything real or anything that I really want, or so-called what I'm really waiting for. So that's just already here without the story, without anything. Story is just a place for me to play around.
Or to suffer or to do anything.
Yeah, we don't need to make an enemy of the stories because they're just what's happening here now.
Whatever arises.
Any last comments or questions before we close out this evening?
Yeah, I was just going to say the story is not a problem for anyone because there's no one in the story. There's no one the story is about except inside the story. You know, inside the imaginary story, there's imaginary problems. Yeah.
Yeah, the last audio with Alice and Nkosi, somebody called you Ramana Maharshi 2.0 because you really said, look for the eye, look for that one, the eye that's claiming this, that, and the other. Where is that one? Show itself. And you look, but you can't find. Because every story has the I. I'm suffering. Suffering can arise, but it doesn't need you. That's how important to me.
Can suffering exist without a me?
Go ahead, Nkosi.
Anything may appear.
Including
Anything may appear. This doesn't mind. What seems to be suffering may appear, but it's suffering it's just suffering for no one. Suffering may appear to be suffering, but no one is suffering. So the message here says there's no one here already. Whatever that seems to be happening right now is just happening. It's not happening to someone. There isn't a separate one who's a victim here. So anything may arise, but it's not arising for anyone. And everything that seems to be appearing is just wholeness appearing. So it's got nothing to do with an individual. Because then what seems to be a separate individual does not exist. Except as a thought that seems to appear in this as this. So everything is this, it's just wholeness appearing as everything. So all questions, all sensations, all thoughts are just wholeness appearing as that. So a separate person is just an imagination that seems to appear in this as this. There isn't any real separate person. So the victim and the sufferer doesn't exist. The doer cannot be found because it doesn't really exist.
I just want to add that this is all about resonance. All is this cannot be figured out. It's all resonance. If something about all is this brings joy to your being, that's it. You're done.
Right.
So it seems to me like, of course, it would apply with any emotion. If there's no me, there's no suffering, there's no joy, there's no. So in Nkosi, you're saying it appears independently without a me. Is that correct? Or it just seems to appear?
Yeah, it seems to appear. It seems to appear. Because here right now, it is seen that everything is this. So when we try to explain things, then we get into a story. And the story is this as well. So there is no escape here. There is no escape, really.
Would you say that it's more accurate to say thoughts are something that appears within the wholeness, an appearance within the wholeness, or would you say that the thoughts themselves are the wholeness? Because when I had my I don't know what you would even call it, but when I had a scene, it was like thoughts appeared and then they kind of went back into the ocean and disappeared, and then there was just, they were there and then they weren't there anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, I would say they appear in wholeness as wholeness.
Okay.
They seem to appear in wholeness as wholeness. So that's what is seen here.
One way you can think about thoughts, which is again a little atypical and radical, but if you think of everything as an object, yeah. So there's, you know, a car, a speaker, you know, post-it notes, and you can think in a way thoughts are just another object. It's just another appearance.
Yeah.
And yet, when looked for, you can't even find it. Look for a thought. You've never found a thought.
Right. And yet your thoughts are the source of all your suffering. And all your joy.
So you're saying there's no suffering.
Suffering arises, but you don't have to let it stick around when you see it for what it is.
I guess the seeing is that none of this exists. It almost doesn't matter what we call it.
That's right. Fundamentally, it's the void.
I mean, I have glimpses of that understanding like now. Yeah, well, thoughts, joy, suffering, people, post-it notes.
It also brings you joy, which is nice once in a while.
But we like joy, right? We don't like suffering. The story tells us that we like joy.
Yeah. We like the good labels, but we don't like the bad
Yeah.
labels. Unfortunately, a stick comes with two ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't separate.
Thank you. Kirk liked that one. That's an old Zen, right? Every stick has two ends. So you can't have up without down, hot without cold, joy without sorrow, pain without pleasure.
And the one who's having the pain and the pleasure is also a thought. The me is a thought.
That's true.
But there's nothing here but thought, or but appearances that look like something, but are really just more nothing. Or
Well,
more
the foundation
everything.
is nothing. The foundation is formlessness.
Hmm.
It's
You can call it
formlessness
everything.
taking
You can
shape.
call it- yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. In my post the other day, I called it locationless mystery. Locationless mystery. But I have to tell you, even to call it a mystery is in a way saying too much, because who would know that it's a mystery?
Which would be the me that doesn't exist.
A mystery to whom? It would require somebody to see it as a not mystery.
Exactly.
How does the me see outside of its own self? It can't.
Waves on the water.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All you're ever, that's just the thought on a loop. You're just hearing a repetitive thought over and over and believing it, caring about it. Yeah, in Nkosi, as you say, the thoughts really don't matter. They really don't matter.
Right.
Only to the me.
They don't matter then.
The me thinks they do.
Let that one go.
Nice. Thank you guys, everyone, so much for coming. Each and every one of you. We so appreciate you all coming. And Nkosi, brother, thank you so much for coming. Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you.
Come on.
Night.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.